My very first GEOINT ever was right here in San Antonio in 2005. I told a joke then about my son, Zach. So he's 18 now. If you guys haven't heard, I've probably told everybody this already, but he is a Virginia Tech Hokie, got accepted into the engineering school. See, you're a smart guy, I can tell you're Virginia Tech. So I told this, so he must have been like 4, right? 4 or 5, 14 years ago. So here's the joke. My very first GEOINT joke. Pete Mute sitting in the office, right here in the front row. I think you've heard this maybe 15 times, but hopefully you guys haven't heard this joke. So back in the day, my wife and I both work, so she heads off in the morning, so I got the kids in the morning, and then she comes home early and she's got the kids in the afternoon. So, you know, you take care of stuff in the morning, get the kids ready for school. There we are, Zach and I were in the bathroom. You know, I got an old Arlington home with the black and white tiles and that little, you know, the little tiny bathroom. So we're in there brushing our teeth. And, you know, I got my Oral-B 30 toothbrush, and Zach's got his little stool, and he's brushing away with his Barney toothbrush. Back in the day, I don't know if Barney's a big deal nowadays, but back in 14 years ago, is Barney still a big deal? I don't know, the purple dinosaur. So, I mean, he had a Barney backpack, Barney PJs, Barney everything. So the poor guy, he was putting his toothbrush away. We're getting ready to go to school. I was gonna drive him to school, and he fumbles it, and it doesn't go in that little thing, the cup holder that hangs out of the wall, and it hits the toilet paper roll, and it basically goes in the toilet. I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna be a huge meltdown. I'm gonna miss Clapper's staff meeting. You know, I mean, this is huge. So we fish it out with the toilet brush, and I throw it in a trash can, and I was trying to explain to Zach, you know, the toilet's dirty, it's not a clean place, we need to throw this away. We'll get you a new one on the way home, don't worry. And I was surprised, he took it well. I mean, he wasn't all that upset. So we're walking out of the bathroom, and he goes back into the bathroom, and he moves the stool, and he basically grabs my Oral-B 30 toothbrush and throws it in the trash can. It's like, wow, so, you know, you get down low, you try and look at him in the face and say, Zach, why are you so pissed? I mean, what made you mad? And he goes, Dad, I'm not mad. I was like, so why'd you throw my toothbrush away? Oh, dropping water left and right. So I go, why'd you throw my toothbrush in the trash can? He goes, well, Dad, your toothbrush was in the toilet yesterday. True story. So I hope you do not gag on my presentation like I did at that moment. Hey, I did, just to start out my presentation, I don't see like John Estridge or are there any staffers out there? I want to give a shout out to the staffers. They did something, sorry, I might lose it, but they did a great thing. Next slide. They named their Intel authorization bill after Matt and Damon. Great guys. So Matt had the Inter-O NGA account. He's been here for years and years and years. Damon was the HPSI staff director, so I just want to give a shout. So typically they'll name bills after senators or congressmen. I think this is the very first time they actually named a bill after members. I'm sorry, after staffers. So, you know, those guys meant a lot to us, but having a bill named after you, that shows you the kind of prestige and status they had on the Hill. So anyway, sorry. Love those guys. All right, so Sue has 6 initiatives that she talks about. The last initiative, which I think is the best initiative, we used to call it acquisition reform. She said, no, we're gonna call it acquisition agility. And that's what we're gonna talk about today. Where's young Zach Jett? Where is he? Stand up. So Zach Jett, he's on a JDA from NSA down to ODNI. He has the pleasure of being the champion for acquisition agility. I've introduced him to, I don't know, a couple hundred people. He's got business cards like nobody's business. So what Zach has been doing is talking to all the senior acquisition executives, senior procurement executives, getting their input. And now what Sue's asked him to do, so I'm gonna put him on the spot again, is to turn the lens the other way and now start talking to industry. So Zach has a chart that he's been using with Sue. We're gonna bring it to the Dexcom and get it approved. So this isn't approved yet, so you're gonna see something cool. But basically, can you go to the next slide? Oh shit, this is sorry. I mean, this is what we, This is what we think about when we think about acquisition agility, right? That was a joke slide, sorry. Next slide. No. So, sorry, that was bad. So there's 4 key areas and then a 5th one that gets to workforce development that circles around the whole thing. But it's the idea of Zach is looking for big ideas, little ideas, whatever kind of ideas you have, sort of in the contracting world, in the program management world, the funds management piece, and then in industry relations. So if you haven't had the opportunity to meet Zach, he is going to start using INSA and AFCEA and USGIF and all the different panels and boards to reach out and start to hear from industry, because there's all kinds of. I got to tell you, the one horror story, the first horror story he heard was somebody walked up to him and goes, "Yeah, I don't even care about meeting the CO or COTR anymore because in the last 6 months we've had 4." And so that's, I mean, and he is the conduit to Sue. So all of these stories are going to make their way up to Sue. But the idea is we're looking for not only bad stories, but good stories so that we can kind of think about how we, so the last slide you'll see here, I'm going to start listing some of the things the SPEs and the SAEs have thrown out to try and make things better. So again, this is for industry as well as for the government, and I'll give you examples on both. I just wanted to give one quick example since we're in the GEOINT world. Next slide. It's kind of hard to read, but the EOFO, the electro-optical follow-on, right? So again, acquisition agility, we always talk about it, it's like tomorrow. So I just wanted to tell you, we're doing it today. And so the Didi Quo from the NRO and Jay Bellis from NGA put together the most incredible team, went out to COCOMs, visited just about every Intel analyst you can imagine, put together, I mean, basically Troy had put together an enterprise capability document from his SIGINT hat. He brought that with him to GEOINT. We started with that ECD. We went into some mission needs, pulling mission threads. We went into an analysis of alternatives where we actually used cost as one of the factors. It has to be affordable. It's not like FIA where we throw out, here's all the requirements, and then we find out we don't have enough money to do it. Basically had building blocks, architecture building blocks, and we went into the JROC, and it was incredible. Of course, we had all the heavy hitters. So we had Robert Cardillo, we had Betty Sapp. We were all there. My experience going to the JROC, you get booted at least 3 or 4 times. Come back. You didn't look at this. You didn't address this. This was, for me, so process isn't exciting, but for me, watching these Jay and Didi go in, and it was kind of cool. So Didi starts off with the very ethereal, here's the functional manager needs, here's the big 4 areas, and then Didi was able to actually show, here's kind of different architectures and satellites that can meet that. All the 4 stars around the table got it. They approved them the first time they went through the JROC. It's amazing. So we have and the first time ever, we took an architecture SOC into the JROC. So within 2 years, we basically changed the entire EOFO architecture. And I mean, this is huge. Since 1988, this is the biggest change we've ever done, and it's affordable. So I just want to give a shout out to NGA NRO. It was amazing. 2 years sounds like a long time. Let me tell you guys, sorry, I'm going to throw Sibbers under the bus. They've been working this 8 years now, and they still don't have they actually briefed after Didi and Jay, and they got tossed away. Come back. You didn't address this. So next slide. So again, a good shout out to the NGA functional manager getting together with the NRO, putting together a good story. To me, that was acquisition agility. We are practicing it today. But again, next slide. What we want to do is start filling out those little bullets, right? Different initiatives. So for instance, in contracting, Sue Gordon looks at us and says, why is CIA the only folks that get to have Section 8A contracting authorities? We all look at each other, I don't know. So God bless Kelly, sat down with our lawyer, and we worked with NSA, and we just signed out last week, the DNI authorized Section 8A authorities for NSA. Small set. But I mean, it will help in terms of them speeding contracting and getting money to you guys. Program management, all kinds of things that we're trying, experimental research development programs. It's kind of like an ACTD. So we're writing instructions. One of the things Zach wants to write is a new DNI instruction to look at how we do agile software development. So it's not an MSA, and we can get around all those little wickets that we have. Funds management, there's not a single time I don't meet with industry where they say, I have a voucher and it's been sitting in somebody's inbox for 6 months and I haven't gotten paid. Now, sometimes the Lockheed and Boeing guys, they don't, I'm way behind, you guys haven't paid me. But if you're a small company and it takes 6 months for the government to pay you, that's tough. And again, like I'm telling you, this is both for industry and it's for government. John Edwards is the new deputy COO over at CIA, and he said, Kevin, I do a 10-page MOU when I try and move money from CIA to, let's say, NGA for 100K. I got a 10-page MOU if it's 100 million. So he's like, I just instituted 1 page for 100K and less, 2-page MOU for 10 million to 100 million. So again, it's a two-way street here in terms of how we can help our PMs and contracting officers, financial managers from both sides. So as I wrap up here, this is a great opportunity for industry to kind of not only hit Zach up with sort of the war stories of things that have gone bad, but where you see, let's say, an NRO contracting officer where they communicated differently, right? So in the industry relations, where instead of doing a draft RFI, draft RFP, this PM or this contracting officer did it in a certain way where I felt like I had much better communication as we went through that RFP process. So not only the good stories, or bad stories, but some good stories as well in terms of where you've seen folks do something different and good, where you think we can replicate that process so anyway, Zach, stand up one more time. So just so you know, his first day on the job, I said, hey, come on, let's go meet Sue. So we walk in and she goes, hey, young Zach Jett, how are you? And he goes, so she goes, you're a baby GS-15. This is really cool. She goes, you know what I did when I was a baby GS-15? Zach's like, his eyes are like this big. No, ma'am. I invented InQtel. I swear to God, Zach looks at her and goes, you want me to invent InQtel? Sorry, buddy. So anyway, he's got the direct line to Sue. This is your opportunity to give him feedback, and hopefully Zach has got a lot of business cards already, but make sure and link up with Zach, and over to you. So I'm sorry, I'm supposed to introduce you. This is the young and skinny Dan Aykroyd right here.
Thank you, sir. I'm not really Dan Aykroyd. My name's Fred Turman. Can you guys hear me?
It's on.
Is it on or off?
Now it's on.
I'm the chairman of the NGA Advisory Working Group under the United States Geospatial Intelligence Foundation. I work for Rhonda, under the programs office. And so I'm honored to be here with this auspicious panel to talk about some really interesting and relevant topics related to acquisition agility. And we're going to set a few ground rules, and then we're going to introduce the panel, and then we're going to let them talk, and then we'll dedicate the bulk of our time to questions and answers. So if anybody has a question, please write it down, get it to one of the ushers, and they'll bring it up to us, and I will check them all out. I guess I'll read them and review them, and then we'll ask the questions of the panel according to how they come and which ones seem to be most relevant to the topic at hand. One thing, we won't be taking any acquisition-specific questions, right, Kelly?
Correct.
Okay. So if you're really angry about this or that acquisition, we'll have to talk about that later, or really happy about it, likewise. So as I mentioned, I'm Fred Turman from the NOG, and to my immediate right is Kelly Pickering, who most of you don't need to be introduced to, but I'm going to talk a little about her anyway. She's the NGA's Senior Procurement Executive as of
1 April.
April, not March. She defines and drives NGA's acquisition system, including its acquisition policies and standards. You've got all that figured out already? Okay. She also serves as the chief of their Office of Contract Services, and prior to NGA, she served in a variety of roles, most recently as the Assistant Deputy Director of National Intelligence, Senior Procurement Executive at ODNI, and prior to that, she served in several roles at CIA, including procurement and policy positions as Acting Procurement Executive, Director of CIA Acquisition Group, and a number of roles at NRO. Classic underachiever. On the far end is our new CIO, Mark Andress. He's been with us since the same day as Kelly, 1st of April. Previously served in several policy and resource management roles, most recently as Assistant Deputy CNO for Information Warfare. Prior to that, he served in a couple of different leadership roles with respect to intelligence and also IT and information services. Next to Kelly is Shenice Stevens. She's a division chief at OVI, the Office of Ventures and Innovation.
Shenice.
Oh, not, oh, you guys moved?
sit next to Mark.
You guys moved?
No.
What did we agree?
We said we'd make it fun, so we thought we'd
Let's
throw
make
it.
it
If you guys hum a song, we'll move around till the music
Okay.
stops.
Adjacent to Mark is Shenice Stevens, who's with the Office of Ventures and Innovation. She runs or drives the principal innovation initiatives such as their CRADA, OTA, and challenges and prizes, which she's going to talk about today a little bit. In previous roles, she served at NGA and DIA as an all-source analyst and also as a PM, and most recently including the deputy PM for Enhanced View, a tiny $7 billion program. Matt, who is now next to Kelly, is our Chief Information Security Officer at CISO, is poor at following directions, and he protects NGA's against cyber threats. Matt's also the occupation manager for NGA cybersecurity. You're also occupation manager for
I am,
acquisition,
yeah,
right?
the career service head.
One of many hats. He served in previous roles in industry, most notably as the lead information assurance engineer for NRO's Enterprise Security Services contract. I get that right, Matt?
Yeah.
All right. So each of our panelists is going to talk for 3 or 4 minutes and just sort of introduce their principal ideas with respect to our acquisition agility topic. And then after that, we'll start taking questions. So please forward those up.
Am I on? Can you hear me? Okay. So yeah, I wanted to take just a few minutes and talk about what my top 3 priorities are going to be. As I'm just coming into this role, I've only been here for a few months. And first on that list is the workforce. That's because contracting is really a human-intensive process. I always say it's more of an art than a science. It's never going to be exactly the same. It's left a lot to the creativity of the contracting officer to determine what is the best type of contract, how it's to be written, what are the deliverables, and so forth. So it's not a cookie-cutter type thing. It requires a lot of problem-solving skills, creativity, critical thinking, and it really involves a great deal of integration, both within the government in terms of the legal requirements, the business requirements, the technical requirements, the security requirements, as well as integrating those with the needs and desires of the contractor community who's delivering the capability for you. So it really is a creative process. I'm really blessed at NGA to have a great team of contracting officers, but I would say one of the things I've noticed is we are very challenged by the workload that we have. Manning, we're down on our manning, we're not fully manned, and we have quite a few new people because there's a high demand for people in contracting. So we're under a lot of competitive pressure to get the best and the brightest in. So my key priority is really focusing on the staffing as well as the developing the tradecraft of the new officers that we're bringing in. I'm also seeing that changing and shifting the culture is going to be something that I'm very interested in doing in the contracting field. Of course, everyone is always afraid of the protest, and that tends to drive us to do things that are somewhat suboptimal. And I really want to change the culture to be one that's more accepting of taking a little bit of risk and being more creative. I really feel that I'm here to support my staff when they try out new things, and I'm pushing and encouraging them to do that. And I'm really going to have their back if they go out and try something new that we haven't done before in an attempt to streamline. So another thing that is really critical in this area is partnering with the CAE staff and MARC staff in terms of defining the requirements, because we find that that is oftentimes our biggest part of the challenge, is getting the requirements in a place where we can actually get the RFP out on the street. So number 2 on my list is acquisition agility, and obviously that's it's for obvious reasons. It's one of Sue Gordon's 6 priorities, as well as part of Goal 2 within the NGA strategic plan. And when I talk about acquisition agility, I'm not so much focused on the agile software development. It's more on the acquisition and contracting process, though I realize the software development is part of it, but that's a subset. So from my optic, a lot needs to change to make our processes easier, and I'm very focused on what I can do to help my staff and the rest of the agency get contracting done more easily. It's really interesting to note that I feel that the FAR has not at all kept up with the change of technology and the marketplace. It's like the processes that we use to put something on contract just really do not lend themselves well to doing it quickly in a rapidly changing technical environment. So we really need to work to find ways to make the competitive process easier and not so bureaucratic so that we can get what we need when we need it to support the mission. I've been fortunate to have my last assignment with Kevin at ODNI, and I had the opportunity to see some of the best examples that we have both within the IC. I also went outside of the IC a little bit. I spent actually quite a bit of time with Soraya's staff over at DHS, and they have a really great procurement innovation lab there, and I found a lot of things that are really exciting to me that I'm hoping to pilot at NGA. Probably first on the list is the process they use for the highest technical rated proposal within a reasonable price, which is a completely new way of doing the source selection that I think a lot of people are really interested in. They've also done some really innovative things in terms of down selecting contractors in a competitive environment where the initial proposal is pretty limited, so you don't have to spend so much BMP up front. And then if you make the first cut, then you put more resources into developing a bigger proposal. And then they are also doing some things within the source selection process itself to streamline the consensus process that I really want to try out. So another key area for me is pushing down the decision-making authority. So I recently submitted a request to have the head of contract activity delegated to a lower level within the organization, because that's something that had been retained with the SPE. And I have several seniors on my staff that I feel are fully capable of doing that. So we're going to be looking at restructuring things so that they can have that opportunity. And then really exciting for me is being able to do more non-FAR-based contracts. We've worked with Shenice's group and done some initial other transactions. And I'm really hoping to expand that so that we can bring in other providers. And I'm really interested in finding ways to do non-FAR-based contracts that go beyond just what would be within the typical OTA legislation. So that's going to require me to go out and seek some additional authorities that I don't have right now. So, and then the last thing that I wanted to mention as a priority is communication, both within the NGA elements as well as with our industry partners. So we can't do our mission without industry at NGA, and so you are really critical to the process. And I was so happy when I arrived, and somebody told me, I think it was Christy Monaco was talking about the NOG, and I had no idea what the NOG was. But then when I heard what it was, I was super excited because I think it's great that we have an industry group that's getting together and trying to advise the government on what we can do better. So I'm really appreciative of all the work that this organization does through the NOG. I thought that the initiatives they had last year were great with the Reverse Industry Day, as well as the discussion they had on RFIs. We should be having something come out pretty soon. Dan Hinchberger from my staff developed some guidelines that we're internally coordinating that we want to get out to our people, and we'll share that with you as well. Another thing that I just wanted to mention is that we are doing monthly updates on the ARC. I know that was one of the things that came forward, is just the status of the existing key acquisitions. Where are they? So we decided to be putting that out. I realize we need to continue to do more, and again, this gets into the cultural thing that I'll be working with my staff in order to encourage them to communicate a little bit more openly than they maybe have been used to doing. So I really look forward to continuing the dialogue with all of you. I'm really happy to be here and hear what you all have to say.
Thank you so much, and appreciate the kind words about the NOG, and I'll bet Bob Gaeta is extremely excited about the emphasis on communication, if he's here. But from that, Mark, can you offer a CIO perspective here?
I can. Okay, is that on? Yeah, it sounds like it. Okay, I really liked Zach's presentation delivered by Kevin. Because I think it's important, the work he's been doing is highlighting how many things need to come together to create agility inside an acquisition process. The whole machine needs to be running together, all with the same dedicated focus, all around different parts of their contribution to acquisition agility. And I just want to talk briefly about what we're doing across NGA to enable that, working with all of our partners. The first thing was when we talk about IT and our data environment and agility, really what we're after is responsiveness. And the responsiveness we're looking for is coming to us from multiple customers, analysts. We started this whole thing off with a cool video on FEMA using our products. So functionally, what we're trying to get to is this demand signal for people that want to integrate new sources of traditional and non-traditional information, do it quickly. They want to be able to adopt all these new tools, the ways to get at the data quickly, right? Speed is a very important driver here. We got to expose it on every domain. That's the other thing I love about NGA. We're everywhere, from TS to unclass, from government to non-government. Our customers are truly everywhere, which is a great opportunity. And I would not be a CIO if I did not say we will continuously drive out cost, right? So all of these demand signals in our architecture lead to this idea of modular open systems approaches. And I was excited to hear that in the opening speeches from the chairman of the board of the USGIF. As I walked around to the different vendors, it was clear to me that this is a message that's been repeated over the last several years. And my observation is industry is trying to meet us at our goal. And I thank you for that. I saw multiple occasions where a vendor would talk about the special sauce they bring in the context of, you know, hey, this demo is I grabbed this data from here, I used this API to plug in these algorithms. This algorithm is an open source piece. This one was from this company. It really embodied the architectural approach we're trying to get to at NGA. So I feel very confident that we're past denial stages and we're moving into how do we accelerate this type of approach and scale it? I think this architectural approach also drives us to the next big piece, which Kelly spoke to, is we're going to have a contracting strategy or strategies that reflect what we're wanting, right? We're going to be supporting both large systems for a certain period of time and maybe continuously, along with small agile systems or smaller modular components. And our contracting strategy will need to marry that. The next thing that we're doing internally is you can't have all of these enablers in place if your own internal organization isn't geared towards agility and responsiveness. So we had a great session here in one of the rooms on our integrated program offices, right? That was NGA's taking the lead to say, I've got to create a more rapid approach to marrying up the analyst with the builder, in that case, the CIOT. So we're at our 1-year anniversary with that. So we now have these teams. Somebody else on?
Not me.
That's on. I'm not doing anything.
Everybody's on? I'll scoot over here. Look at these guys. That's powerful. I like that.
It's the low.
If you're not over here at the government stage, you should be here now. Okay? My boss says, reach out, hunt them down. I am here to hunt you down. He's not even here anymore. Oh, there he is. Yeah.
Hey, boss, can you use this for the end of the day wrap up instead of that bullhorn? That'd be great.
Okay, so we got to attack it from our architecture. We got to hit it on our contracting strategy. We're organized around it. So agile teams together, prioritizing. Everybody goes into those rooms every day together and they say, here's our money, here's what we got, right? So what's your priority? They prioritize them one to N, right? Then they say, okay, what are we going to attack? So we're taking that on internally. The final thing is there's been a lot of talk about agile development processes. So that's that more tactical implementation that we're taking on and we want to take on with you. And so when we're talking about that, we're really not talking about a special software approach or a special tool. We're talking about a methodology around development titled Agile, right? And it has attributes of iterative. It has attributes of time-bound, right? So we got our money, we know how much we're going to take on our priorities. You only get to do this much so quickly. And the most important element of that is it's got to be collaborative, right? And I think we're getting to the point that inside NGA, we're getting very collaborative with our analysts and our IT force, very transparent. Our next step will be how do we increase the collaboration with all of you inside this very agile development process. I think that's where I want to stop to allow more time for the others to talk and then take questions.
Thanks, Mark. Shenice, you want to address that from the perspective of the Office of Ventures and Innovation, please?
Yeah. So the Office of Ventures and Innovation was created in 2017, and I think it's really a testament to NGA's commitment on engaging with industry. In addition to helping facilitate innovation, we also have the Industry Engagement Officer, and we also have Outposts. So we want to hear from you, and we have an email, and you can reach out. In addition to that, I want to talk about some of the agile acquisition projects we're currently working. We've partnered with the IPOs, the Integrated Program Offices, and OCS on several different activities. So one of them being, as Kelly stated, the Other Transaction Authority. Currently in OVI, we run a consortium for this, and it took us a while to get started. The first year we had it in place, we only awarded one project. And, but as Kelly said, there's a lot of cultural things that need to be put in place. Agile acquisition is also about figuring out ways to do things differently. So jointly, both our team and the Office of Contract Services figured out better ways to do this. And to date, we've actually awarded 8 projects. In addition to those 8 projects, 4 of them have delivered successful prototypes to NGA. So the prototypes range from anything from hardware to applying different capabilities and algorithms. So we think that that's success. And as Nicole, I'm sorry.
Wow.
As Kelly stated, we're working with.
I just got where people sat wrong.
I know. You said Nicole was out there and it messed me up.
Nicole is everywhere.
Yes. So we've worked on these strategies to create new things for the future to expand this program even further based on these successes. And another activity that we're doing is challenges and prize competitions. So we have this authority, and we want to use this as a way to augment traditional technology transition. We also think that this is a way to incentivize industry to commit private funds towards innovative prototypes and activities here at NGA. So NGA currently and OVI, we've done 2 small challenges, but we also partner with other agencies. For example, the Source Office is partnered with NASA on a MagQuest challenge. It's currently open. There's cards at the NGA booth, actually, and this is up to $1.2 million. So there's a lot of different activities. But we want to take the challenges and prize competition and use that as a strategy to help reduce risk. We're working with the IPOs and research to say, hey, can we use this as market research ahead of acquisitions to try to look at the roadmap and see if places where we can insert that. And also, we're also working with Kelly and her team to maybe make language that we can put in these activities to see if we can pursue follow-on activities as such as contracts if things are successful. So we're trying to work creatively and think outside of the box to help facilitate innovation throughout NGA, working with the IPOs especially to look so we can help fill in some of those gaps that were already discussed. So I'm going to stop.
Great.
Thank you.
And good to make the connection between the CIO stuff and your stuff, so appreciate that. Matt's our last speaker. He's going to address this from the perspective of security.
Yeah, I will, but I want to start by managing expectations. If you brought your buzzword bingo chart for an NGA remarks, I will not be talking about ATO in a day. So I just want to go ahead and get that out front. I will say blockchain at some point if that helps anybody with a free space, or maybe homomorphic encryption if you want that one. But seriously, I'm really excited about the architecture work that we're doing in CIO. Security has a huge piece to play there with respect to defining enterprise security services, which for us are part of the key to agile acquisitions and agile integrations. We want to define what Julianne talked about on Monday as sort of inheritance models where programs who are considering integrating with NGA, you're not bringing your own identity and access service, you're not bringing your own enterprise audit service, you're not bringing your own scanning services, you use ours. And you can think about those as design patterns or templates or playbooks. But the bottom line is we all go faster when we can aggregate risk and something we understand, when we can provide a set of controls and services available to anybody who wants to use them. And that allows programs, industry partners to focus on the differentiated code, the things that makes the program or the application unique rather than sort of the commoditized things, the basic blocking and tackling of cybersecurity. So what we're doing to make those things easier, you heard Sue talk yesterday and Carrie talk today about how manifest the threats are in the cybersecurity landscape. And I got to tell you, I have a luxury problem. At the same time as there's never been more scrutiny on cybersecurity is when we want to go faster than ever to bring things to market, bring things to operations. And so we're working through that with our community partners. One of Sue's other imperatives is cybersecurity. And she pulled a number of us together last year to launch a cybersecurity evaluation model and enshrined a few tenets there, one of which is the R word. And that is reciprocity. And so I know it's in the brochure, it's been in the brochure for a long, long time, but we're closer than ever to realizing actual reciprocity, especially with respect to things like hardware and software authorizations, hardware and software evaluations. Right now in the community, there's too much touch labor wasted as we all evaluate components, libraries, functions, et cetera, as a tremendous opportunity for us to accelerate and save ourselves time and money by reusing those artifacts between us. There are a couple things that we can use help on from industry, and it's largely unsexy, but critical. One of the things is I'm surprised at how many industry partners offer solutions that still aren't articulated in terms of capabilities and controls. Our processes, our tools, our reciprocity models are based on a lingua franca of NIST controls. And so successful acquisitions, successful integrations, especially accelerated ones, do a lot of that work pre-positioned. So it's much easier for us to consume and evaluate. I think there's a tremendous opportunity there. Additionally, I think many of you would probably agree that the person who is charged with doing the security stuff is the person who missed the meeting. And so it would be extremely beneficial to us if that person had some background in the cybersecurity discipline, so that we can accelerate our processes. And that's some place where we get hung up a lot. Now, I'm going to meet you more than halfway. We're continuing to accelerate inheritance models, enterprise security services. I want to give everybody easy buttons. But we also talk about our easy buttons. There's 5 million lines of code behind the easy button. And so we're working on those things. If you can meet us there, we'll meet you.
Thanks. So just a couple of words about the panel. It's interesting that there's 4 different perspectives here, but considering the differences in tenure and a couple of folks being just brand new, it was really interesting to me how everybody's teaming on this stuff and focused on working together towards these goals that we all hold. So with that, I just want to get to a couple of questions. First of all, a really important one is, how do you get a hold of Zach?
All right, everybody pull out their phone. Come on. This is like the only time a speaker does not mind you looking at your phone. Pull this out.
Got it.
And if you all hit the send button at the same time, I think you can bring the DNI's web server down. So, you ready? It's Zach, Z-A-C-H. God, you're going to hate me, aren't you? Z-A-C-H, and then it's ARC, A-R-C, J. So Zach Arc J at DNI.gov. So that's his unclassed email. So you guys are now connected.
So seldom is there a definitive answer in this kind of a subject, so that's great.
Just for the record, it's pretty clear he hates you already. Just saying.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a stare of death if I've ever seen one.
So a couple of questions. Kelly touched on culture. I think a couple other people alluded to it, but let's just go ahead and ask a big question. Anybody on the panel? What are we doing to change the culture within NGA to embrace agility, speed, and change? In other words, how do we make these things that you're talking about happening at the deck plate level become part of who we are, and it stays who we are?
Well, so let me address from my area. What I've been planning to do is, number one, for all of our big acquisitions, we do something called an acquisition capabilities board, and that's followed by a contract review board. So from my optic, we need to be doing those boards earlier and than we're currently doing them, and actually having a deliberate discussion about acquisition agility as part of that process. So I've already been talking to my Deputy D that we need to update the guidelines for those boards, to have that be a standard part of the discussion. Then the second thing that I want to do when we get around to our next round of performance appraisals or performance standards, which will come up next year, I'm planning that I would like to put in something tied to acquisition agility to really encourage the people on my team to make that a focus area and to give them credit if they come up with new ways of doing things.
Yeah, I'll add to that. I think you've heard Admiral Sharp talking about showing the way. And when you're attacking culture, it starts at the top. And one of the things I'm also excited about is, they've set up these data core, dev core, development core, these squads, if you will, of experts, and deployed them out at hard targets for us. And when these small teams can get at freed up data and demonstrate and show how, it kind of reinforces that imperative I've been talking about. And that drives the why. And when people start to hear that, like we'll do our ops intel in the morning, and there'll be a dedicated, after we go around the world and we see what's going on and we solve all the world's crises right there at NGA, we turn inside and say, hey, check out what this data core team has done on topic A, B, or C. Or we'll get one of Mark's dev core folks to talk about what they did partnering with industry on rapid code development. And I think that visibility and that commitment helps with culture a lot.
Check.
And
So-
can I
go
was
ahead,
going to add
please.
that also in OVI, we have fast forward training, which is available to anyone in the agency, and they can go and get lean startup training so they can make sure that we have it at the executive level and at the staff level to make sure that people are asking the right questions as they're going forward. In addition to that, at Defense Acquisition University, they had some OT training that some of our team went to, thought it was great, and brought it back so that the larger OCS and OVI staff could take that. Because we don't want to manage OTs like we manage FAR-based contracts. So getting people all educated in baseline is one of the things that we decided to do.
So I'll throw a plug for the startup fast forward training. I've done it. It's tremendous. My team's going to go through it this summer. A huge plug for that if you're an NGA person. I think one of the other ways that we change the culture is things like the IPOs help us build empathy with our customers. As we're developing solutions, as we're refining requirements, we're doing that with our customers in a partnership in an iterative process. And I think that type of empathy breeds understanding of those imperatives like speed and agility. I mean, those mission users are driving to bring something to operational capability. I think it's harder when there's a sort of an abstracted requirements process where something goes into a machine, at the other end a thing comes out. But I think by getting much closer to that, and the IPOs are a concrete step in that direction, I think we're making sure those imperatives are part of the culture of how we work.
Check. So with speed, I think there's an illusion out there that going slow is less risky. You agree? We're going to need people to take risks. We're going to have to encourage them that when they take risks and they fail, or the particular thing doesn't work out, to get them to take risks again. Can anybody talk a little bit about, we talked as a panel in our preparations a little bit about risk and how to manage it and how to encourage people to take them. Any thoughts for the audience about what we're going to do to become more of a risk-taking and managing organization as opposed to a risk-avoiding organization?
So again, I'll just answer within my area. Contracting officers tend to be somewhat conservative people. And that's
No.
good because they don't want people to get in trouble. And that's why they're that way. But the way I look at it, if somebody comes to me and they said, oh, I want to do this thing in a different way and I think it's going to save a lot of time, and I say, okay, then I'm taking full responsibility for that. And so if it messes up, it's on me. And we're not going to, be bemoaning how horrible that was or anything. We're just going to learn from it and we're going to do something different. I mean, maybe there's something we can tweak that makes it work out okay. But I am all for trying new things and supporting the people who want to try new things and, actually giving them credit for having the courage to do something different.
Maybe seeking
Even-
forgiveness together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Anybody else?
I have a thought on risk. I think there's a bit of a challenge wrapped up in risk when we talk about it. I think the trick is that to take calculated risks, you've got to calculate them. And many times people don't, right? I mean, real risk management includes likelihood of occurrence and impact and consequence. And I think the shortcuts that people are looking for in terms of let's be riskier or let's be more open to risk are, I don't want to even calculate them. I don't know what the real consequence is here. So I would say that if we continue to develop ways to carefully consider and calculate risk, then we can take more. I can tell you from a cybersecurity perspective, if my team takes a calculated risk that we've thought about, here's the consequence, and whether or not we can live with it. I mean, Sue talked about whether or not you can live with the consequences of a decision should be part of the barometer for whether or not you should take it. I think that's the missing piece when we talk about risk, and I would love to see more work on let's calculate them and understand them and then take more risk.
Gotcha. Thanks. Okay, next question is about modular contracting. Anybody care about that? Just me. Okay. Yeah, one guy. Oh, it's my co-chair. Thanks, Renard. Modular contracting seems to lack specific definition and application at NGA and elsewhere in the community. Can the panel clarify how NGA defines modular contracting and how it will be applied to improve NGA mission outcomes?
Yeah. I love modular contracting. There's only one person that loves modular contracting. That's amazing. So I did get sent the actual FAR definition, and as much as we bemoan the FAR, it was actually a pretty good definition. And much like everything else you read in the FAR, I immediately forgot the definition as soon as I finished reading it. But I do remember being inspired by it, and I thought it was pretty good, so go check it out.
That will be our definition.
Yeah.
I can't recall it, but I can recommend it.
Yeah. No, we've got, as I talked about, the architectural shift and how the contracting strategy has to shift. It will include modular contracting. So over the next, starting now, we have some RFPs that are out there in source solicitation that have an acquisition strategy around elements of modular contracting. The FAR talks about the sweet spot of modular contracting being unique attributes of capabilities, shorter in duration, typically supporting maze types contracts. And if you look at what we're talking about in our acquisition strategies that are out there, that's the sweet spot we're targeting. But I don't want to imply that we are going to an all modular contracting strategy, and I don't want to imply that modular contracting equals small, right? A modular component of an enterprise architecture could be as big as C2S, right? You know, it's ubiquitous and whole as an entity, but its volume, size, and scale is quite large. That's a modular component of a larger architecture. Likewise, we're going to adopt certain modular components in our security architecture. So modular doesn't equal small. Modular does equal efficient. It equals agile. And it can also equal scalable. So what we're looking at is a combination of things, right? Today, our awesome enterprise supports millions of customers. We got no-fail mission at NGA. And that no-fail mission is underpinned by some pretty big systems, right? The 5 million lines of code was used. I was in a meeting the other day where they had 10 million lines of code. 10 million. That's big, right? And with a no-fail mission, we're not going to break that. We're not going to walk away from it. So we're going to have a combination of things where we can continue to support these big systems with all their code and make smart decisions about how to modularize things that need to be enterprise-level pieces and parts. And then we'll probably be a little more prescriptive and compliance-based on new capabilities, right? Here's our architecture. Oh, you're new? Guess what? You get to have all of these pieces or you don't do business with us. So I think that's how we're going to approach it. We're learning a lot. RFIs and RFPs, they're actually helpful. We've enjoyed some excellent feedback through our RFIs into this first round of RFPs that we've gotten, and we're going to keep learning as we go.
Thanks. Everybody else okay? You want to talk about application at all? Okay. So let's go to a super easy one. Kelly, do you have an opinion on the use of FAR Part 12 in acquisition of technology? Industry believes this would be quicker, more economic, and better associates commercial needs. Buying tech-based on commercial gets you the innovation quickly.
I agree.
Okay.
Next.
Circle gets us
And
square.
in fact, let me just add on to that. I do actually have a couple of teams within my larger team that are doing this quite a bit. And I love it. It is a much faster way to do competition. It's much faster in terms of the pricing. So everything works a lot more quickly, and they're having great success with it. I think it's something that we need to expand more broadly across the enterprise.
Thanks. Next question is about certifications. And the questioner asks about AWAI as a particular certification, but let me just expand a little bit. A lot of people in particular disciplines, engineers, contract specialists, if you really want to improve and protect that discipline, you become certified in it. In COSI systems engineering, licensed professional engineers, the geospatial disciplines are now being subject to certification. And it's something that is designed to create benefit so that there is a standardization of skills and capabilities in the enterprise. Any thoughts from the group generally on how they could or should use, or maybe how they are using certifications to achieve those outcomes?
I'll start internally. So actually two of the 5 components of CIOT strategy, which I did not write, but I love, talks about the workforce. And I think what I'm going to say is mostly to our internal workforce, our acquisition workforce, skill sets we need. So we've done a lot of spade work, or those before me have done a lot of spade work in identifying these deficiencies that we've had in our workforce. So a lot of those are around certifications and skill sets tied to DWIA certifications, not as an absolute, but as attributes and skills that we need. And so we've embarked on a maturation of our workforce to try to raise their overall skill sets, and that does involve certifications. I'm not sure if that gets to what the questioner was asking, but that's a huge part of what we're doing.
It sounds like you have some application of certifications, maybe not as you can't do this job unless you hold this certification or this license, but that they in fact are helpful and can help indicate who's doing the work. Now, you're a CISSP, correct, Matt?
I'm lots of things, yeah.
Talk about that.
Sure. So the cybersecurity discipline is frankly beset with certifications. There is a standard framework that DISA promulgates that has a set of baseline certifications that correlate to various disciplines for watch standards, for SOC floors, for risk managers, for technical officers, those kinds of things. But despite having a number of those certifications and a couple of them for a couple of decades, I think what we're starting to see now is, in coordination with NIST and in coordination with the DoD, a move to less about the certifications and more about demonstration of the knowledge, skills, and abilities that correlate to the jobs. And so the NIST, NICE, the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education, has a framework that takes a number of different positions and decomposes them into KSAs that sort of speak to, I can really do this job.
Okay.
We've mapped our cyber positions into that. We're working on mapping other aspects of the IT workforce into that. I think that we want to move towards show me you can do this thing, not that you've passed the test.
Check. Thank you.
And I'll just add, within contracting, certification has been around for quite a while. And that's something we focus on with our workforce when we get new people in, making sure that they get all the training that they need. But also, I would just add, in contracting, that actually doing it is a big piece of the process. You know, despite the fact that we have certifications, I actually think to get a good broad base as a CO is an 8 to 10 year process to where you could be pretty much given any type of acquisition and be able to do it. And you actually have to move through multiple assignments to develop the skills that you need, because there are so many different ways to do contracting that you just have to learn them all, and a lot of it is learning by doing, not just the book piece.
But it can be a chunk of the culture, right?
And can I just mention, before I forget about this too, the business opportunities, we did put that up, and I think there may be another slide that they might want to flip to, because I think there was multiple slides.
Can't they just call Zach?
Well, these are the NGA business opportunities, so I don't know that Zach knows them or wants to deal with those calls. And I also want to mention that I have some COs sitting in the back. Joylene and Dawn, do you have more cards? Okay, so on your way out, if you want a card which gives all the contact information for the ARC, some of these were sitting at the NGA booth, but if you didn't pick one up, that actually is our centralized place for posting all of the acquisitions over $10 million. So even if they end up being somewhere else, they will be noted on the ARC first and direct you to where you need to go. So I want to make sure everybody that wants one of those has one.
Thank you. Some of us don't have all kinds of time to be calling all kinds of people, so is it okay if we just call Zach instead?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've also got lots of Mark's
Okay.
cards if you want.
So, this is for everybody on the panel, and it starts with all due respect.
Incoming.
Brace yourself.
Incoming.
Words like accelerate, agile, streamline, at least in previous years, apparently haven't received sufficient purchase for this questioner. What is the one big thing that will make this different? It's a tough one. So what is our conviction to achieve these acceleration, better cycle times in the contracts world, more or less opaque access to the architecture? Your point about collaborative architecture. Mm-hmm. Is there any one thing about this that we could point out that we think it's different this time? We've got momentum. We're going to achieve these outcomes, and how?
Can I start? Sorry.
Yeah.
So, hello. I would tell you, from my perspective, when I see things take off is when you have senior leaders focused on the topic. So acquisition agility in my days has always been sort of down at the PEO or PM level. I got to tell you, when Sue Gordon says, and this is one of my top 6 initiatives, so the big thing for me is when your boss looks at you and Zach every week and says, what are you doing and how are you making this happen? So having senior leader, and then she brings it to the Dexcom and you have all the deputies there. So having the senior leadership of the IC focused on this one topic, I think will get And again, looking at the deputies can make decisions and say, yes, we can do this. So having senior leaders sort of focus for me is a big thing.
And continued focus and sustained energy. Yeah. Any other comments on that?
Well, actually, I was just going to say exactly the same thing, focus, because it is at the senior leader level, and even then at my level, I know that I have to maintain the focus on that. So, and there's a lot of things that want to pull me away, but I know that's a focus because it's a focus from a higher level.
I was going to say both of those things. My first word that popped in my head was Sue, and then Sue's focus. So when Sue pulled us over to LX 3 times last year with the deputies, with the CIOs, to talk about what she wants from a cybersecurity performance model, and to lay out her emphasis on reciprocity, it's pretty clear that's a new level of focus and visibility than we've had before.
I'd add one different view. And it's more of an enabler than a what's going to do it. And I think it's transparency, if I picked a word. Everything that we've been talking about that's not agile is based on people doing big things and then handing big things to the next person. And then they take that medicine ball and head the big. And so that's that whole phone chain thing where what I said over here, what I finally get over here is not it at all. So I think the efforts in transparency are probably the single biggest enabler on achieving agility.
Great, thanks. So next question is, NGA wants to open up contracting opportunities to a broader cross-section of industry. That is, begin to realize the potential of companies who have never before worked with the IC or the federal government even. Question for the panel. What is NGA doing to discover and more fully realize the potential of non-traditional providers of technology, services, and products? How does a newbie figure out how to play? In other words, there's a certain opacity to government contracting in general if you've never done it, but you think you have something to offer. Anybody want to take on the what you can do, who you can call?
Yeah, I'll speak to that a little bit. In OVI, like I stated, we have the industry engagement officer, so there's an email address right there as a way in. We also have the small business director in OVI. If it's a small business, they can engage with that office to help answer those questions. In addition, we have the outpost, and they're going out and looking for non-traditionals that have never worked with NGA, don't know how to, might not even know where to start. So there's a couple of different, I think, avenues that OVI specifically offers, and we're partnering with the source office as they go out and do scouting as well, because there's industry engagement throughout all of NGA. And I think right now, another thing that we've started recently is like a meeting of a coalition of industry engagement officers. So we're talking about these things. We're looking at these companies. So contacting them is not going to just get you to one person. It's actually a coalition within the agency that's looking at these folks.
I'd also put in a plug for InQtel. We discover lots of promising technologies through InQtel, through relationships there that are fostered by OVI.
Great. Okay, thank you. Aside from the OTA option, has NGA considered revamping the BAA to remove the $/time caps and changing the requested technologies to be in line with the current areas of need? Is that a regulatory problem? Changing those definitions?
You know, I cannot remember if the dollar value is regulatory or not. If it is, there, of course, would always be ways to request a waiver from that if we wanted to do it. And, you know, Shenice, I don't know if you've thought about this, but I have thought about taking some of the newer documentation and putting that out as our areas that we're interested in for the BAAs.
Actually, Don and I have talked about that, so
Okay.
we have talked, yes.
Happening right here and now, live.
So the next question, I have to query the panel because there's a premise here. Did you or any of us or all of us see Sue Gordon's remarks?
Yes.
Okay. So Sue talked about the concrete middle with IC organizations. How does that impact the acquisition process, and what are we doing to mitigate that?
Well, I'll try to address that a little bit from my optic. I think it's communication, because what I find a lot of time with the concrete middle is they get left out of the conversation. So the seniors are up here and we're talking about all this stuff, and we don't spend enough time with them to let them know what is important to us and what we want them to focus on. So from my perspective, it is really being very open in our communications with them about what we're expecting, what we want them focusing on, and really encouraging them and giving them credit when they go out and do the things, because they're really the ones that make it all happen. Or not all of it. I mean, the workers are making it happen, they're making it happen, but the seniors, we're not doing that much except talking. So, we really have to get their buy-in into what we want them to do.
I was going to say, one of the things that OVI has done, we've had some internal innovation events, such as the pitch we have, right? So people within NGA can submit ideas, and if they have projects and so forth, those folks will help them and educate them on how to get that idea into a more concrete actual requirement. And they also help with tools. We have, we call it an innovation toolkit. So it helps people discover things out there that they might need, like how to do ATO. We'll link them up to the services and so forth that CIOT has posted online. And also we have a caddying service, which are folks that are actual individuals that'll help those people get through things. So we're trying to give people tools to innovate so that they can get through that.
Anything else?
Again,
sorry.
just one big idea that I've been bouncing off with Mark and Kelly. So I started as a GS5 at NavAir, SpaWar NavAir, and I was there when we had the A12 debacle. So I don't know if in the 80s we called it the concrete middle, but basically the poor PM had maybe 15 different bosses. And so it was, I mean, as you went through, Vice Admiral Bill Bowes at the time basically had us go through and kind of, show me the chain of command, how this works. And it was crazy. I mean, everybody's just going, how do you guys do business? So the big idea that Vice Admiral Bill Bowes started, and it's now within all of the services, is the idea of you have a PM that reports to a PEO that reports to your senior acquisition executive. So the idea on that is you have a chain of command so that you can make decisions, right? So the authority, if the SAE or the CAE decides to delegate that milestone decision authority to the PEO, the PM has a clear chain of command where they can go to and get a decision. So there's no concrete middle in between the PM and the PEO. So one of the big ideas that Mark and Kelly and I were over a few drinks and a bar napkin, you always come up with really cool ideas. But you could create, let's say, a PEO. Mark could be a PEO for capabilities. Or Kelly could be the PEO for services. And in those PMs, there's no concrete middle between a PM and a PEO. It is a straight line. And they get the accountability. And what was always nice about a PEO is if you screwed up as a PM, let's say I delivered a terrible airplane to the VPU Special Projects, that skipper could call the PEO and say, Miners is a moron, this plane sucks, right? So again, the PEO is also there for an accountability purpose to say, hey, are you delivering quality, a service or a capability? So anyway, that's a big idea we're kicking around, and I think it's gonna head up to the Admiral soon, so.
Well, I think it just did. He's standing right there.
I think he's within earshot, yeah.
You see how I make that persuasive argument? That was good, wasn't it?
That was good.
Brilliant. This one's for Kelly. It's a little specific. Small Business Runaway Extension Act of 2018. I didn't make that up. Is NGA recognizing using the 5-year calculation in 2019? So that's for small businesses that are on the verge of losing their distinction this year, unless it goes to 5 immediately.
I have to say, I really do not know. I would have to ask Diana that question. I don't know if anybody in Tim or, yeah, we'll have to take that back and get the answer to that one. Because I haven't looked at how she's calculating.
Gotcha. Thanks. So we'll just have to take that question. So any plans to insert or further utilize data science principles in our program requirements, for example, or maybe this goes to the data core, or
Yeah, no, I'll speak to that. The entire architecture we're talking about is about how to enable data science across every aspect of our work. And so I don't know, I don't know that you'll have data science clauses in contract language, because it's about freeing the data, enabling the tools, and all of that to support data science attributes across the entire enterprise.
So long as there's data science outcomes, for example, you could have them, but otherwise they wouldn't sort of extraneously be there. The question was actually, are you considering incorporating into DAWIA criteria, which of course
Oh.
we can't do here, but
Yeah,
other training elements maybe.
we have, as part of our career services group, we have a data science career services. So much like I talked about acquisition workforce, there already is an entire kind of approach, curricula, skill sets, and others set for data scientists at NGA.
Gotcha.
And
20, oh, sorry, you have 20 seconds.
Oh, well, then I'll save it for something else.
Okay. So we're going to give you back 14 seconds.
All right, so let's give them a big round of applause.